Hey, what's up everybody, Primus122 here, bringing you another episode of Transformers Lore. This episode, we'll be talking about the weapons and the equipment of the 13 that have come to be called the Artifacts of the 13. Now, what were the Artifacts of the 13? Well, they could range from any purpose, serving as powerful weapons or simple pieces of attire. Not every member of the 13 had an artifact, and there are likely artifacts that we don't know about yet. Also, this is just about the artifacts of the singular 13, including both the pre-Uniend Unified Multiverse and the post-Uniend Unified Multiverse. As a result, it will not include artifacts from the non-singular 13, like the 13 from Prime X1005.19 Gamma. So, without further ado, let's get into it. First, let's take a look at Prima's artifacts. We have the Star Saber. In the non-Uniend multiverse, the Star Saber was a powerful weapon with the Origin Matrix at its hilt. It was used in battle against Unicron with great success, but was eventually shattered into pieces and spread across the multiverse to keep it from falling into the wrong hands. In the Uniend cluster, the Matrix of Leadership itself served as the hilt, and there were many legends revolving around its origin. One legend says that 3 Transformers made up the sword, while others say that it was part of Prima's body. However, we know that it was forged by Solus Prime, but on that note there is another legend that suggests Solus Prime forged the sword in a sun and used the energy and heat of the sun to develop the weapon. It too was shattered and spread across the universe. Somehow it ended up back on Cybertron at some point. The Matrix of Leadership is also an artifact of Prima, specifically the Matrix from Prime X984.0 Gamma and related universes, and the Matrix from Uniend 911.05 Alpha and related universes. The Matrix would be passed down from leader to leader. The Origin Matrix is also an artifact that is pretty much identical in the powers of the Matrix of Leadership. Vector Prime's artifacts. For one, Vector Prime had the Blades of Time, which really was a mandala rather than a sword, that allowed Vector Prime to use his time-based powers. He also had the Badge of Vector Prime, which really was just a badge and didn't really do anything else. Wristling is the name of Vector Prime's sword. Originally, it was a Saber caliber, possibly a pre-Uniend unification version of the weapon, and was wielded by Mogon the Mass. During Vector Prime's adventures, he managed to take the sword and reformatted it into Wristling, and gave it the ability to cut the fabric of reality itself, and to use it to alter time. Megatronus, or the Fallen, had the Requiem Blaster, which powered itself from intense energy like that of black holes. There is no record of anyone surviving a hit from the Requiem Blaster, and it is possible that it's the most powerful weapon ever. In modern times, the weapon is too heavy for a Transformer to pick up or fire. The weapon even has its own source of gravity, becoming the core of the planet Junkion in Uniend 911.05 Alpha. Megatronus also has the Void Scepter, his staff. Nexus Prime owns a lot of blades, including the Omni Saber, the Chaos Edge, and the Cyber Caliber. Though it isn't necessarily his artifact exclusively, Nexus Prime also was the last to use the Terminus Blade, a sword that allowed the 13 to move throughout the multiverse. When the sarcophagus technology became available to the 13, the sword was made irrelevant and was hidden to prevent anyone in the future from having its power. Nexus Prime was also the owner of the Enigma of Combination, also known as the Infinite Combinatoric. The Enigma changed shape very often and is very difficult to describe. While we haven't necessarily seen this ability with the main Enigma, other Enigmas of Combination without a known link to the main 13 have had the ability to turn things into combiners. Logos Prime, later known as Sound Blaster, had the Xeonomicon. It served as one of Logos Prime's conduits for power. After Logos Prime went mad and became Sound Blaster, he used the Xeonomicon for evil until Vector Prime took it from him. The Xeonomicon takes different forms in different places, and in the RX cluster, it takes the appearance of a unique cyber key. Micronus Prime had the Chimera Stone, which allowed him to combine with larger Transformers. It also allowed him to share powers and abilities in both directions. Liege Maximo wielded the Ledian Darts, which were poison darts. Though he never used it, Liege Maximo also put in the order for the Apex armor, for him to work with his war beasts that he was creating. This controversy eventually led to the War of the Primes in the Uniend cluster. Solus Prime was the creator of many of these artifacts listed thanks to her forge and her creation lathe. A lattice had assisted her use of the forge, itself appearing as a huge giant hammer. It is said that only a Prime can wield the forge. Solomus, also known as Alpha Trion, had 2 very important artifacts called the Quill and the Covenant of Primus. Don't confuse the Covenant of Primus with the scripture Transformers who follow the teachings of Primus have, as this is the very original Covenant of Primus that writes the history of the multiverse. With the Quill, Alpha Trion could rewrite history by writing in the Covenant of Primus. The Quill might be the most powerful artifact, as it has the ability to change everything through a few strokes. Onyx Prime owned what was called the triptych mask. It had 3 faces and allowed him to put his own subconscious into other creatures. The first mask was called Farsight and allowed him to look into other places and other times, though some of these were real and some were not. Although Onyx Prime knew the difference, no one else who used it could tell if it was reality or a dream of some creature. The second mask was Predator and allowed Onyx to access the mind of any creature so that he could hunt it. The third was Mornsong and is described as being, quote, alive and vigorous on the back but cold and empty on the front. It is said that only Onyx Prime could understand the visions it gave the user. According to Onyx Prime, Mornsong allowed one to see the journey of a spark across the hidden regions of death. Alchemist Prime, known in some circles as Macadam, possessed the lenses, which were part of his own optics. As such, no one else is able to use them. The lenses allowed Alchemist Prime to see another side to any story. Amalgamous Prime, also known as Adaptus, although don't get him confused with the Guiding Hand Adaptus, possessed the Scythe. It could be very hard to tell what exactly the Scythe was, since it was incorporated into Amalgamis's body, and his body was always in a constant state of changing. Amalgamus also had the original transformation cog in the Uniend cluster, from which the T-cogs of the Transformers there were based on. This transformation cog facilitated Amalgamis's constant flux of shape, and could allow the user to assume any shape they wished. Quintus Prime's artifact was the Ember Stone. The Ember Stone was very similar to Primus's ability to create life, and Quintus used the Ember Stone to create various distant cousin races to the Cybertronians. At least in the Uniend cluster. So that covers all the artifacts that we know about so far, from when the two groups of the 13 were united as one, and then some. I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. For more episodes on Transformers lore, subscribe if you like. Follow me on social media for updates on the channel, and have a good day, ladies and gentlemen.